Boon Boona Coffee is more than a cafe. It's a celebration of East African coffee traditions, bringing the region's bold, distinct flavors into the forefront with every sip. Efrem Fesaha's journey, from Eritrean diaspora to successful entrepreneur, was fueled by a desire to honor his heritage and uplift East African coffee growers, turning passion into a thriving business. From humble beginnings in Renton, Boon Boona has grown into a hub where communities connect, all through a shared appreciation for quality coffee and cultural exchange. Boon Boona is a testament to how one person's dedication can create a ripple effect, uplifting farmers abroad while enriching local neighborhoods. With Boon Boona, Efrem has built more than a cafe. It's a community where coffee sparks connection, preserves culture, and honors the traditions of East Africa. Welcome today here at WhipsNCuts. We have a great interview. He is a big impact in our community. He runs a small business that's now big, Boon Boona, and he's a father. He's a son. He's our Habesha brother by the name of Efrem Fesaha. We're so grateful that we're here for him to give us this time. I know he's a busy man, and to discuss his life, his future, and pretty much speak on the impact he has in our community. And what's going on?
Man, I'm grateful for that. Thank you for the intro. It's an honor, it's a pleasure. Grateful to be here with you, grateful to be here with the community as well. But no, I'm excited to have this conversation. Honored that you would even be willing to come in here and do this with me. So very grateful, brother.
Man,
yeah.
I mean, it's an honor for us. You know, we as the team, when we sit down and we want to interview somebody, we look at that person's impact in the community. And as we were sitting, we were like, if we could get him to sit with us, it'd be an honor. We felt like you were almost out of reach. Like your success is very big. Like we were in the store one day, we were just seeing coffee beans and seeing Boon Boona on the shelf, and like explaining it to my mother. It was just like, she was like honored, you know, she was like, the pride that it kicked in was crazy. But, you know, like me, myself, being an entrepreneur or self-employed, seeing your growth in the community, it's very like inspiring, you know. I appreciate that. And it's not every day you see self in a success form, you know. We're just very honored to have you here today.
Once again, I'm grateful. Grateful to be here. Grateful for this conversation. Grateful for the journey that it's been as well. So, yeah, definitely excited to share and, you know, be a part of this. Yeah.
How would you describe Efrem, if on a personal level, on a personality-wise, if you were to describe Efrem, how would you describe that person?
You know, someone that's constantly evolving, someone that's constantly changing, hopefully for the better. One that recognizes shortcomings, willing to take those lessons and, you know, take those L's, you know, and learn from it and grow. You know, someone that has, you know, kind of, you know, been a product of the environment that fortunate enough to grow up in, but then also to kind of recognize the things that you've been fortunate with, and that there's a sense of responsibility, and, you know, trying to fulfill that responsibility, and do good with it. That's it. I guess if anything is, you know, someone that's hopefully recognized as someone trying to do good. Not that I always will, but that's really, I hope that's the view from the outside looking in of Efrem, or of how Efrem, even how I refer to myself, you know, how I want to see myself. It's been a journey for sure, but you know, I think that, you know, the beautiful thing about life is that, you know, and it was, you know, someone that I always revered and loved learning from was Malcolm X's autobiography. Oh, wow. And hearing, you know, how he went through change up until the final days of his life. You know, someone that was always willing to change, grow from it. But we hear that in many other stories too, in other people's lives. And so just taking that and recognizing that, you know, the short time that we have on this earth is to do as much good as possible. And that's really the game. That's really
That's beautiful.
that's the effort. That's the effort that I'm putting in, at least. Yeah.
I mean, we walked in earlier. The passion that you have here, like from teaching us how the roastery works, how the business operates. I got like the personal tour of this place, and it was beautiful. Kind of elaborate on how this business started. What were the footsteps to making coffee a whole brand and image on your end?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the journey started back in, you know, really about 2011. I took a trip back home, okay. And so I got to spend some time in Smeta, about 3 months there, really. And it was really like I had been burnt out of my career. Mm-hmm. I was fatigued, and I just really wanted to, you know, kind of get back in touch with my roots.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, really kind of center myself again, just figure out the things that are important. And when I was there, I mean, my intent was never coffee. Really was on other things, you know. Yeah. It was more of a spiritual side. Okay. And then also, you know, getting to explore more of the tradition, the experience of what it would have been like if my parents had never left. Yeah. You know, just imagining what it would be like to be in the village and to, you know, have goats and sheep and just be working the farm and, you know, kind of playing with that idea but at the same time, the reality and recognizing, you know, what, you know, everything around it as well too. And so, you know, in just walking around the streets of Esmeta, you see a lot of cafes. Yeah. And that was what kind of inspired me. And so when I came back, I said, how do I do that? How do I get into coffee and make an impact? Now, there were some other underlying stories too that were happening too, is that, you know, I had this desire for coffee, but it became like, okay, what's the mission going to be? What's the motivating factor behind it? And so it was about, how do I have one foot on the continent and one foot back here to be able to kind of go back and forth? I want to create economy. I want to create commerce back on the continent. I want to be selfish about just focusing in on the continent. I want to be able to just have a channel by which a supply chain exists with just Africa. But here, where I grew up, and so it became that. So it was evolving into this, like, okay, how do you make it more meaningful? And so layers to it just kind of kept getting, you know, built up. There was also, you know, a recognizing of, because I went there for, you know, kind of more of a learning more about myself, also recognizing how fortunate I am. You know, I came here when I was 5 years old, you know, grew up in West Seattle area, and, you know, I think about our brothers and sisters who wish they were in that spot, you know, who wish that they got to grow up here or had the opportunity for higher education or opportunity for the career that I had, just in all those things, you know, but instead, you know, they're, you know, all kinds of circumstances, all kinds of, you know, hardship that they're experiencing to get to this place. So then how ungrateful would I be, or how selfish is it if I'm just, you know, out here just not making use of it? And, you know, I think we're all probably accustomed to the late night phone calls that we probably get from family members, like, hey, can you, you know, send money? You know, I'm trapped here or doing this. And as much as possible you want to do, but there's an extent to it too, right? And so the extent to what you're capable of. And so recognizing that, you know, okay, I can live my life in a mission base where it's like, I want to encourage, or I want to support, or I want to do right by what I've been fortunate enough to be in for this position, but then also for the good of my community as well. And some of this is like grandiose, you know, it's like, you know, it's like, is it, you know, it's bigger than, but, you know, at least that's what, you know, you want to feel good about the efforts that you're making. And so there was layers to what it is that motivated me to start on this journey. And, you know, I was also really determined. I was gritty. You know, grit was really big for me. You know, I got a lot of no's and rejections at first. Yeah. I mean, end of 2011, I started pitching it to some banks to get some support. It was all no's. and so I just said, okay, how do I dive into it still without that? And so fortunately, because we have family in Ethiopia as well, it was like, okay, where you guys get coffee?
Yeah. Where's the plug?
Where's the plug at?
Yeah.
And who is the plug? And so that became the avenue by which it was like, oh, okay, like that's accessible,
Yeah.
And then I started playing with coffee at home.
Yeah.
And that
as
was
far
the
as
start
like
of it.
making it or just
Started
understanding
roasting
the world.
it. Yeah, just using it, just roasting it at home, the traditional style, jebana, the full thing.
Mom's helped?
Mom's kind of helped. My moms are tough.
Yeah.
So she's not like really like, oh yeah, come do it. No,
Yeah.
she's like, oh, she's gone. Let me go try doing it.
Okay.
And then later on, she's like, okay, yeah, well, you're burning it or doing this. Then there was some direction, but it was slow. But then finally.
Well, I mean, as far as the passion for coffee, like Boon in my house was something I try to avoid.
Yeah.
Because it's the hour of interrogation.
Yeah.
You married yet?
Yeah.
Look at what your cousin's doing.
Yeah,
See, so Boon for me was
Yeah.
a scary experience.
Yeah.
It was the time for them to sit down. Like in American society, it's at the dinner table. With moms working.
Yeah, for sure.
Living that immigrant
Yeah,
lifestyle and transitioning over here.
Yeah.
Boon was the time of
Yeah.
that family get together. So the gossip,
Yeah.
the competitive vibes,
Right.
and so Boon, I didn't get into coffee till like as an adult.
Yeah.
Because that avoidance with my family and
Yeah.
that it was a hot seat,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got into it late, and now I'm on this journey of like health and being on like a ketogenic diet,
That's
trying
great.
to avoid sugar. And I use coffee as a tool to curb my appetite, So I've been on it, How would you say to the average customer that walks in here, never had coffee?
Yeah.
I mean, they had coffee, but they don't have an understanding of coffee. If
For
they
sure,
were
yeah.
to begin to order or come in,
Yeah.
how would you recommend them, or how do you start if they wanted to be in this coffee culture, how would
Yeah.
you introduce them to it?
Well, I think the way I see it is that coffee has a really really stuck up kind of side to it. At least here in America, or kind of like this what we call the third wave, or specialty coffee. It can get kind of snobby or whatnot. It's like, oh, it's this and this and it's super geeky. But my approach has always been to like, what do you like to drink? What do you like to drink? How do you take your coffee?
Yeah.
Obviously, you came into a coffee shop. You might not even drink coffee. Yeah. Oh no, I'll just do tea, or I just come for the vibe.
Yeah.
Or okay, then we can find something that satisfies your taste too. But it's more of like, well, what do you like? Oh well, I typically get caramel macchiato at such and such place.
Yeah.
All right, well, how about we make something similar?
Yeah.
We could do a caramel and vanilla latte.
Yeah.
And, do you like it hot, iced? And so you find out what that person likes and just talk to them.
You walk
sometimes, walk them through. And so sometimes even folks will be like, oh, I typically don't like a light roast or a medium roast coffee. I really like my stuff dark. Like, oh, okay, well,
What does that do to the flavor of the coffee when you're doing the light and all that?
So what happens is that it's just really like how the level in which you're roasting your coffee. So even when you're traditionally roasting it, it could be really light or it could be really dark. And somewhere in that spectrum is where you stop at for the jebana.
Does it make the coffee stronger, or?
Yeah, actually. So a misconception is that a darker coffee, like a darker roasted coffee, is actually like it's got more caffeine to it, but that's not the truth.
Yeah.
The more you roast a coffee, the less caffeine you have because you've cooked a lot of the caffeine out of the coffee. So a lighter roast coffee actually has more caffeine. And then when it comes to taste, like a lighter roast coffee is more acidic, a darker roast coffee is more bitter. And so you're kind of finding this like spectrum of flavor.
Do a blend sometimes?
Yeah, and you can kind of find that middle spot, medium roast, is where you want to have it at. And there's kind of a desire to have, equal consistency of like the roast profile amongst those coffees too. So you can do all of that. But you see, even in this right here, like this is how I like encouraging people into coffee. Because you don't scare them, It's like, okay, well, where you at? Yeah, it's like, where you at?
I'd be
and
nervous.
Bring them in. Yeah,
I'll walk into a coffee shop and they tell me, and I tell them what are the sizes, and it'd be like 5 different sizes. I'm like, bro, I just want black coffee.
Yeah, I just need coffee.
You're doing too much.
Yeah, no. So I always start off by, what do you enjoy drinking? And then going from there. And then if they're like, oh, I don't know, you like a sweet. Do you even like coffee?
That's how you
like,
hit us earlier. You said you want a cold brew. What you want?
And find that happy place, But I think about really it's the engagement though, right? Engaging the customer, your guest, and being, just a warm, hospitable host, Because when we do our traditional ceremony, it's like, what do you want? Do you want milk? Do you want sugar? Do you want this? Do you want that? It's like all the, options just keep getting thrown at you.
Do
And
they
keep
do
pressed
they
on.
trip up when they see the jabana? Like when you give them that experience?
Oh
Like,
yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, because I think that's just like another level of experience that they haven't had.
I've never seen it at a coffee shop.
Oh,
I've
yeah,
seen
yeah.
it once at a restaurant. But
Oh yeah. No, it's definitely something people are like, oh, please tell me more about it.
Yeah.
And so it kind of it's one of the things that people look to us for, and say, oh, can I get that? And it's more for the education, for the experience.
Yes.
And even folks that don't really drink coffee all that much enjoy the taste of it, which is always something to me. It kind of speaks to like the experience of it.
Yeah.
So just by smelling it, watching it, engaging, you then become more enticed to drink it, and there's kind of like an appeal to that. And kind of going back to what you said about, the interrogation time.
Yeah.
For me, I think about the coffee ceremony now. It's like, I know that feeling too.
Yeah.
But I'll think about times that it's like, therapeutic.
Yeah, there's humor. There's
there's
laughs,
humor.
you know.
there's mourning, right?
Yeah,
Like we do
yeah.
it, it's a hazan. It's a time of mourning, and yet the coffee is being roasted. It allows for conversations to happen. And so the smell, the experience, all of that, like, it definitely triggers some things for me in my in our upbringing for sure that like comes back.
I like coffee because it's very conversational.
Yeah.
And it's inviting, just like how food would be inviting, you know. And me and my mother, we have deep talks now over coffee.
There you go.
And she's kind of like gave me my flowers of, you're an adult now, you're smart.
Yeah.
So when I say something, she takes heed to it.
Oh, that's good.
And, coffee's given that opportunity. That's why I've kind of like grown into coffee.
No, that's beautiful. I had it was a crazy experience. It was probably like about a year ago, and I came to visit mom, and she was like, do you want coffee? I was like, of course. And so she's roasting, and then she's like, at the end, she's like, how does it look? Bro, my mind blew.
She's giving you.
She's asking me for advice on the roast quality.
Yeah.
Like, that's a trip. Because like never would I ever get asked, how does the tzepi taste? Like, like,
you're done. You're done.
Just eat it, bro. Yeah, so it was a trip for her to just simply say like, does this roast look good? I still think about it because it's like, when has mom ever asked for my opinion about anything food related?
When your parents give you flowers, that's another. That's one of those good feelings.
Oh, for sure, yeah. No.
With all this success and accomplishments that you've gotten, how do you appreciate these moments? Are you on that Kobe spectrum of job's not done, or do you celebrate those little milestones on the way up? Like, how do you engage in those moments?
I'll be honest with you, to an extent, success is not something I kind of look at as like, oh, I've got opened up another location, or we just got this thing. I always stay grateful for sure. Like I'm always grateful for all those things. Any kind of door that's open for us, always a state of gratitude for sure, because I know it's not my own doing. It's like, we were talking about that earlier about like, some of these opportunities. It's a conversation just like this.
Yeah.
And then a door is open, and I can only be grateful to the person that opened the door or the community that supported me to kind of walk into those places, and the history that's been there behind me that's allowed me to get to this point. So a lot of it is not so much based off of like, oh, like I did it. If anything, it's like we did it or we're doing it. And so I kind of look at it as more of a collective on that side of things. And on how I kind of operate on a day-to-day basis is, because it's such a fragile place, right? Business ownership, whether small, medium, large, it's really challenging.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, I think that recognizing that, there's going to be tough days, and there's going to be great days.
Yeah.
And if I can take, those hard days and really stay calm, think through, how to solve the problem, grateful that I'm in that position to even be able to make that decision, You know, my ability to problem solve through it works really well.
Yeah.
Versus me being emotionally worked up and being like, oh man, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
And vice versa, when it is good, like, you know, when an opportunity comes or, you know, doors open, even then it's still like, oh, I'm grateful, but now I gotta go deliver.
Yeah.
You know? And so to an extent, it's, you know, I wouldn't say like I get too excited one way or the other, but I try saying, can I stay even keeled through it all? And that's kind of how I move through all of this. Because, you know, I mean, honestly, you know, even in this week alone, you know, I've heard about like 3 businesses that have shut down, you know, good friends that have been building it up. They're big brothers, big sisters to me, and they've been working hard, and I've seen what they've done, and they've been movers and shakers in the game, and, you know, but it's definitely a lot of work. And so sense of gratitude, but also a sense of like emotional kind of maturity to where it's like, no, I'm gonna keep riding this. I'm gonna work hard for it. I'm gonna try delivering. I'm gonna stay present. I'm gonna, you know, try doing good on this path, and that's it. And so a lot of it is based off of that. And then, you know, God willing, one day we get to retire, hopefully. But you know, for now, it's really a lot of that. Every day, just waking up, being grateful for it, and just going for it. Yeah.
In your world, how does Efrem create ideas? How does from conception to execution, how do you create your ideas? How do you move on with the plans? And, you know, and how do you fight intrusive thoughts like doubt and stuff like that?
Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one. Recently, there's been any times that I can kind of like disconnect from like my day-to-day things. So if I get to go travel, if I get to spend time away from the business, if I'm going for a walk, mental rest, mental clarity allows for that. Sometimes you're inspired by the things that you see as well. So, you know, keeping your ears open and wanting to experience things will lead to things that push you in a particular direction. And so, you know, it comes in different ways. I also love having conversations too. And in those conversations, you know, ideas start to form. You know, and it may lead to something, maybe it doesn't, maybe it's a spark. Sometimes it's at the middle of the night, you know, you're just resting, wake up and you're like, oh, I've got this thing. And so then you come up with this idea, and then the approach by which you say, okay, let me bring it to life, is a full-on exercise of like, what do I need to do first? And straight up like planning it out, by like
just
writing it down. But like, honestly, like sometimes I'll think about a simple process, even like getting to my car. So if I'm gonna get to my car, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna need the keys to my car. I'm gonna need to walk through the front door. I'm gonna need to lock the door. So I think about it in every little step like that, to see that thing come to life. And so, you know, here we have these cups right here. So for the longest time, we had real basic, you know, white cups when we were stamping them. We were like, you know what? What do we need to do to customize things? What would it look like? And it was like, you know, let's talk to our graphic designers, see what he can create, come up with that, start talking to our distributor about, hey, how do we, you know, produce these cups? What is it going to cost? What's the price difference? So now we're getting all of our analysis together for the numbers at least side. We're getting the, you know, graphic side of it figured out. And then we're going to start looking at the stuff and we're like, yo, all right, which one do we side with? You know what? We can't even decide. Let's just put it to the community. So let's put it on social media and have people vote for it. And then based off of that, then it's like, okay, now we move on to the next thing. And so this progression of like, okay, now you got a 3-month wait for it to be manufactured and brought to you, but it's brought to life. And so things like that even, you know, it is a good feeling when you see something that was an idea brought to life. You know, more recently we've been working on a pretty big opportunity for us with, you know, going organic. And so we had this idea of like, yo, one day we're going to eventually be able to have an organic roaster. And so the roaster that we have behind us is that. And that was only based off of the fact that like we knew we needed to have 2 roasters. Because one needs to be specifically just organic. We had coffee that was organic, but unless the roaster is organic, it means nothing. So to see that come to life is an incredible experience. And then seeing the doors that open after it as well. So whether it's a grocery store that's now like, oh, you've got organic certification? Perfect. Let's go. Put it on the shelves. things like that are always incredible to see, but still recognizing the fact that it's a process. And so, you know, great. Oh, they said yes to the opportunity. They said yes to us to bring that thing to them. Okay, well, there are still a lot of deliverables on that path. And we need to knock all those out before we can even come to celebrating. And then we need to see that first PO, and we need to see that first check, and we need to see it clear. And so it's all those steps, you know. And so then it's like, oh, now we got to repeat it. So it's this desire to kind of just keep going and going and going with it. But yeah, I love the idea, but for ideas to come, it's kind of like that place and time also, because sometimes you're working in the business so much, you're not working on the business, and you just kind of lose sight of things for sure. Yeah.
As the CEO and the owner of Boon Boona, I know all wins and blame go to you. Would you say a team of just consultants, friends, family, would you say there was a group of people that kind of pushed you into this, where ideas drop left and right? Or is this something that you kind of just planned and was like, I'm ahead, spear this?
Nah, you get checked all the time. Yeah, get checked all the time. And I mean, that's the good thing. And especially in our culture, I think that, like, you know, I mean, I remember, you know, pitching a tent and selling green coffee, you know, at events and such. And, you know, it'd be like, oh, you know, like your logo's kind of like this, or your green coffee is like that, or, you know, hey, it's too high, the price is too low, things like that. You know, it's like you take that feedback. There's no, true, there's some bad feedback for sure, but you take that information because there may be some truth and there may be some things that you really do need to evaluate in that process.
I love criticism.
So that's great. I like it.
I love criticism because it's like, if you told me something was bad and you gave me reasoning behind it, like why it was bad, then that's constructive criticism.
For sure, yeah.
If you just told me it was bad, you know, now you're just throwing dirt.
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
just throwing dirt, exactly,
you know, so I love constructive criticism.
I do too. I do too. Yeah, sometimes, like, even for us, like, what we'll do is actually someone else, the owners of Hood Famous, Shara, she's a champion, but they have a location down in the ID. And basically she was like, you know, I don't look at 1-star reviews or 5-star reviews. I look at 3-star reviews because they're going to provide some context as to what happened, what the circumstances were. Was it an employee? Was it the coffee? What it was? And based off of that, apply some changes for the business that can, you know, be useful. And I think about that, you know, a lot of criticism, you know, there may be nuggets of truth inside there for sure. But then, if there's nothing that I can build off of, like there's no direction in that, then, or I can't give a response to it, then there's no point. But then also too much good also is like, I need to hear the truth. And so I don't want to have just a whole bunch of like, oh, that's great.
Oh, I seek for it. And I know the people to go to get it, you know, but you need those, you know. The thing I admire about your business and how you've moved is your ability to hit on expansion and moving autonomously. You know, it's like I'm self-employed. I'm not an entrepreneur. Like I was telling you earlier, for you to be an entrepreneur, you kind of have to like step away and let the business operate. And that's kind of like one of the hard things I've been trying to like overcome, but seeing your business doing that, see you giving opportunities for your employees for better living, to provide, and you know, it's an economic like boost in the community, you know. And I know you have several branches. You have one in Cap Hill, the UW bookstore, Microsoft. I think there's talks of hotels coming in or services like that. Like, how are you able to keep expanding? What's like the motivation behind it? How are you getting these opportunities?
Man, once again, the opportunities, you know, I don't know. I mean, I swear to you. I think, you know, I think it's sometimes, how is it, like luck is where opportunity and preparation meet. And I think that's where it probably lives at. And so I think there's a level of preparedness. And I definitely always kind of like say, you know, I want to put the cart behind the horse instead of in front of the horse.
For sure.
And so try to be prepared before you go to that thing. And so for us, like operationally, how are we? You know, do we have the personnel? Do we have the coffee? Do we have the bags? Do we have the marketing or the tools by which we're going to tell that story? Like what's available? What's ready to go? What can we do? And then building off of it. And I mean, if you think about it, like this journey, it's really in the last 5 years that it's, you know, really kind of taken off. And that first year, January 2019, we opened up these doors here. And really at that time, you know, it was like prove your concept, you know?
Yeah.
And at that time, it was this roaster, this cafe, this entire space. So I had a lot of overhead for, you know, really a cafe. Cafe typically is just espresso and you're out, you know?
Yeah.
But I had a team for my roasting, I had coffee, I had a lot more fixed cost, you know, inside of the business. And so I had to do more to kind of compensate for it. But at a certain point, I was like, all right, the model works. At the end of the first year, I was like, okay, hey, I was able to prove that this concept can work. And so maybe I'm gonna actually, not even, you know, how, I'm gonna have to.
Speak it into existence.
Yeah, I have to open up a second cafe because I'm producing enough coffee and I've got capacity in this roaster to go to 2, 3, 4, 5 more cafes. So I need to be able to produce more, and I need more outlets for it. And, you know, obviously we got hit with the pandemic, which was, you know, a burden. You know, it was tough. You know, you're struggling, and you know, you're making do with what you can.
Yeah.
But, you know, through there, even like we started seeing our online business start to boom. So people were ordering our coffee. And then, you know, by the end of the year, we're getting hit up by the grocery store, you know, and they're like, hey, you know, are you ready to come into the grocery store? I was like, no.
They reached out to you,
Yeah,
kind of
they reached-
situation?
yeah.
I was curious how that happened.
Yeah,
It was like, do you reach out to them, or you move enough units and they come to you?
No, matter of fact, it was an employee of QFC
Wow.
who actually was like, oh yeah, I know somebody that can do some coffee.
Yeah.
And said it to the president of the company.
Wow.
And then it was just some emails that started coming in.
Wow.
So you don't know, like, once again, that's a friend I've known since you know, childhood. And she was the one that just said, yo, check these guys out. And then that's how, you know, we went into about, at that point, 50 of 60 grocery stores.
Wow.
Between 50 and 60 grocery stores.
Like in this region or just across the country?
QFC. So between QFC's in Washington and Oregon.
Okay.
And so that was the first, but then we told them no.
Was it too much to deliver, or?
We weren't ready. Our bags, so these bags, you know, I had some rules around it. One, it wasn't quite shelf ready, so it didn't fit the right size to fit in the shelves, which is an
So it'd be
important
different
criteria.
from this, and then what's on the shelf would be a different packaging?
It was almost like, it was like narrow and it was taller.
Okay.
So that's not gonna fit in the shelves. And if it does, it's gonna be, you know, like chopped.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, that's not gonna work. So I needed to make sure that it was shelf proper. I said, okay, I also need to have, you know, a few different types of coffee, because now I'm hitting a grocery store where people are accustomed to like different roast levels.
Options.
So I need to have different types of options. So we had 3 different coffees that we wanted to have. And then we also said, you know, we're not gonna do this for nothing. We wanna have a cause behind it.
Wow.
And so we said, if 5% of profits are gonna go to 2 nonprofits locally. One's called Feast, the other one is called Vision House.
That's dope.
And so we were like, we want to have a cause behind it. So if we're going to get this opportunity, we're going to, you know, we want to give something back. And then like the fourth one was like, I want it to be in a compostable bag as well, because obviously that's important to do. So that's going to be more and more cost basically.
Yeah.
And our coffee is more expensive than that of the other folks, you know, for the most part. And so, and it still is. It's probably more, like at least at QFC, it's probably the most expensive coffee there on the shelf. But we wanted to do all those things before we said yes to them. And so it was August of 2020 that they reached out. We didn't go into the grocery store until like about February of 2021. So all that time, they were just like, all right, go do what you need to do. Once you're ready, let us know, we'll go live. And so that's how that happened. But once again, who was it? It was childhood friend that, you know, opened the door for us, you know.
It seems so tactical.
Yeah,
Like,
shout out to Esther.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because when I seen it and I seen it on the shelf, in my mind, I create the story of how it got here. And I was like, he's tactical.
Nah.
He's on it. You know, but that's good though. It's a beautiful story.
It's fortunate. We got lucky. And then by January, February, so right around the time our coffee was going to the grocery store, we still had only 2 cafes. Then we got hit up by Microsoft and Amazon.
Yeah.
1 week from each other, 2 separate paths. And one was like, hey, you can bid, so you can compete with 30 other roasters, and if you win, come on. You can have
as
a
far
cafe.
As taste testing?
No,
or?
yeah, taste testing, product story, what are you doing, how do you do it, what do you, like, who
It's
are
like
you?
an interview pretty much.
It's an interview, full-on interview. show us your production, show us your facility. There's a board. They'll decide if you pass.
Okay.
And so that was with Microsoft, and so we were one of 30, and then we came down, and then so we got that.
That's what's up.
And then it was a week later that we got hit up by Amazon, who was like, "Hey, we've just come on in," and basically it was like, it's just Boon Boona'd out, you know, and it's all of our product and everything. But you know, it's their space basically. So it's like the first level of the corporate buildings.
Okay.
And
so in every building, it's Boon Boona, like
no,
coffee,
no,
or
we're
just
not.
one building?
Yeah, it's just no. So we've got probably about in total about 10 of them.
Okay.
So we're in about three Amazon locations, 4 Microsofts.
That's dope.
Gates Foundation, Fred Hutch,
Okay.
and Seattle University, and a few other places. But yeah, so that's kind of how that happened. And so it's all these things that have like independently kind of grown on each other.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so I mean, and to this point now, even the story of how the hotel thing happened was really somebody at the hotel who had been working in it for some time, chose to kind of go on his own entrepreneurial path basically, and was doing recruiting for the hotel, and it was going well for him. And he was like, you know, this opportunity that's been granted to me, he was like, I want to share that with others. And so he presented the opportunity to us.
Okay.
And was like, hey man, like, you know, if there's an opportunity for me to introduce you to the GM, I'd love to, with your coffee, and see where it goes. And
You guys had to
from
sit
there,
down?
Yeah, we had to sit down, try the coffee. He came in here as well. And so, yeah, once again, like, it's not that I'm super smart or super clever or, you know, any of that.
It's preparation.
It is preparation, and it's the opportunity, and that's where they're meeting at, and that's how it's all coming together. But otherwise, yeah, I would have been, still just, you know, packaging coffee at home, sending it out. And so, yeah.
Man, it's beautiful. I mean, it's been an honor sitting with you, drinking the coffee, you giving us a tour, just seeing your whole entrepreneur spirit. It's very motivational. Me and the team sat down, and we're like, if we could just get in hands reach.
Nah, man.
You know, we project you to be the next Fortune 500, something big. Like, you know, I know you're very humble, but it's very motivational seeing you in the community and doing what you do and giving opportunity for people to thrive with you. We love your whole business module and the way you empathize with people and how you're caring and how you've combined passion and culture together to make coffee is beautiful. And I get goosebumps talking about it, but it's dope. And I know you're a busy man. And you creating this time to sit with us, we're humbly, we love that you gave us this opportunity.
No. I'm super grateful for it. You know, honestly, even those words, it definitely means a lot. You know, I don't take it lightly. And the responsibility and the opportunity that I've been granted, I need to make sure that I'm reciprocating that.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that's super important to me. And that's what I'm gonna keep working to do.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely core principles within the business that even if, you know, somebody else wants to take over it or something like that, there's some core principles within it, you know, that we've put in place for the business for it to stand on. You know, so how we source only African coffees. We're intentional about who we buy from. A lot of small independent farmers, but then also who's in the supply chain. You know, a lot of times coffee is moved with larger conglomerates, but trying to keep it within the people that actually are there. So whether it's Ethiopia, Burundi, Rwanda, Tanzania, Cameroon, it's the people of there that we're trying to just move that coffee with. So first time, you know, it's leaving anybody's hands, it's from folks from there to us. That's our effort. You know, we became a B Corp certified company, which means that, you know, it's not just me talking about it, but like we get audited for it.
Okay.
That, you know, we say that we're doing the things that we say. So when we're buying coffee from Congo, when we're giving back, things like that, that's true. You know, from there, even here in the community as well, just like how we try engaging, and try providing space within our spaces is super important. Like, I mean, I don't know if y'all know, but like King County Library comes in twice a month into here. Once they read, they do like family story time in English, and then they come again to do it in Amharic and Tigrinya.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's been something that was, something I was really proud of, like seeing that come to life. Just thinking about, learning, Fidels, learning your letters and stuff as a kid, and the value of that, and going beyond it as well, and just kind of creating community as well. But I mean, once again, we're not doing it perfectly.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure it out. We're learning as we grow.
It's
I'm
consistency.
grateful. I'm grateful for this opportunity to get to share that story, and and to you, continue to grow and succeed in all that it is that you're doing.
Appreciate you, brother.
The doors that you're opening, the platform that you're providing, myself, but others as well, is much needed. We need you in this space, and we need more in this space. So, yeah, keep inspiring.
I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, of course.
That is a wrap of a Whips and Cuts episode with Boon Boona. Grateful that he had time for us and to share his story and his life and his passion. More to come on the way. Thanks for watching. Click and subscribe.